No One Will Save You, written and directed by Brian Duffield, starring Kaitlyn Dever, and that's essentially it. There are some superfluous characters here and there, but No One Will Save You is a very tight alien home invasion movie. Not the type that you would expect. This released over on Disney Plus Star, but also Hulu. So Disney Plus Star, anywhere else in the world that Hulu is unavailable. It released 3 days ago. I watched it last night, and this will be my slight spoiler review. If you've watched the trailer, you will know a lot of what's going to happen in this film, because unfortunately they revealed a lot of it, and I think that's a real shame, because this film was tight. It's not going to be for everyone, and I think that's important to say actually straight from the off, and probably what I should have said at my opener for this review. This film won't be for everyone. Some will find this boring in the sort of second act. Some will find the ending a little bit too wacky and out there. But for me, I really enjoyed this film. It took elements of other movies that I know, and sort of elements of these kind of home invasion, alien invasion type films that I would expect, and then it flipped them on its head. And like I say, this is a very, very tight film. This film is actually carried by its score and an intense performance from Kaitlyn Dever, who plays Bryn, because there is essentially no talking in this entire film. Yep. And you know what? You would barely notice that that is the case. For me, anyway, I barely noticed that there was no talking. It got to the second act and then I realised that there was no talking. And that is because the performance is so intense. There's a lot of curiosity behind what Bryn's character does with her day-to-day life, and the score is so expertly put together. The sound is absolutely superb in this film. So, I've alluded to it, and if you've watched the trailer you will kind of know, but let's talk about what the story is. This is an alien home invasion film. So Kaitlyn plays Bryn, an anxiety-ridden, exiled individual due to a traumatic childhood event. Which is important, because it's a theme which runs through this film and ties itself up nicely towards the end of the movie. So I think that's important. She's going about her day-to-day life, keeping it low-key, what she's doing day-to-day. And she's asleep, and then boom, the home invasion starts. And it's an alien. Obviously, you've seen the trailer. The design of the alien is reminiscent to what would be called the stereotypical The Greys, as it were. You know, tall, skinny, big head, big eyes, that type of thing. But something I really enjoyed about this alien design was you took that core concept of the Greys and you reinvented it through an evolutional chain. So you look at humans, and then you look at other creatures surrounding humans which are related to us, monkeys, primates, so on and so forth. There are very similar trends, but there are differences, of course. And they expanded upon that with the Greys. So you have the stereotypical Greys, then you had almost the primate type grey, a bit monkey-ish, smaller, longer arms, interesting. Then you had a ginormous, gigantic grey, which was kind of bipedal, but also a bit of a quadruped as well. And this running theme I thought was actually very, very, very smartly done, nicely done. The sound design, which was put together to create their vocals, superb. Very eerie, great stuff, really loved that. I can't stress that enough. I genuinely loved the way these creatures moved and talked, and the vibrations that you could very clearly actually see rippling up through their throats when they moved around talking. But also how they moved. So they almost had like a 10 fingers and toe. Like upon their feet were little hands that also had little feet that helped them walk around. It's very strange, and it's that sort of creativity that I think is lacking in modern day films. And it's just a little thing, it's just a little design, but it was fantastic. And what I mean by that form of creativity, it's not like, oh, we're just going to do tentacles everywhere like every bloody film does these days. You know, it's these little things that just add to the eerie and creepiness that happens. Now, obviously, because Bryn is alone, she's exiled, she does end up going to town, but because of a traumatic childhood event, she leaves town. And she's essentially a mute anyway. We don't hear her say anything. And I'm guessing, it's not out and out stated, but because of the traumatic child event, she essentially killed her best friend. And surrounding all of that and how she acts and things like this, I do wonder if there's an element of sort of autism at play there. You know, like an undercurrent of that, you know, that sort of element at play, because she doesn't act like you would expect. She doesn't scream, you know, for the high heavens. She wants loads of help and all this kind of stuff. Seems to be fairly independent, so I think there might be something at play there. Anyway, so she starts to take on these aliens herself. All of that was fantastic. You do see a lot in the trailer, so I think that's, you know, I don't think there's much to mention. But I do want to cover the end, because this won't be for everyone, but I actually really, really enjoyed the end. And I think it's not a subversion of expectations, so there's a lot to say about the end of the film, and I may even do an ending explained video on it, because I think that there's a lot there, there's a lot to unpack, the sort of philosophical ramifications of that end sequence and what occurs. But suffice to say, without too much spoilers, she essentially gets her wish, I guess in some regard, that the town she lives in, she becomes, I guess, a true exile among many, is the closest I can put to it. But I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was tight, a breezy time as well, an hour and a half, if I remember rightly. And I liked that runtime as well. Shame that Disney has relegated 20th Century Studios, formerly 20th Century Fox, to streaming now, because this film, I genuinely believe, would have got so many people talking, and it is over on Twitter. I mean, Del Toro's even done a whole thread about it. I genuinely would think that this film would become a sleeper hit and make Disney some money. So boo for Disney, because I would have loved to have watched this on the big screen. Had a very good time with it. If you've seen it, let me know what you think down below. It's a strong recommendation from me. I had such a fantastic time, and I would recommend it to you guys. Take care, hit subscribe if you're new here. Bye bye now.